"This is my house. Who are you kids and what are you doing in here?" a man yelled, standing in the doorway of the old farmhouse. In front of him, two small, identical girls huddled by an unlit fireplace, their eyes wide with fear. They had been surviving there for weeks, hiding in the only home they had ever known, but the man who just bought the farm was about to kick them out onto the streets. What he didn't know was, these weren't just any squatters. They were his own family, and they held the secret that would change his life forever. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now subscribe to the channel, and let's get started. Dad, I can't breathe. Jake's voice was barely a whisper in the darkness of their small apartment. Mark Johnson jumped out of bed, fumbling for the light switch. His 10-year-old son sat upright, his small chest heaving with effort. Jake's face was pale, his eyes wide with panic. "Hold on, buddy. I've got you." Mark searched frantically through the mess on Jake's nightstand, pushing aside comic books and toy cars. "Where's your inhaler?" Jake pointed weakly toward his backpack by the door. Mark lunged for it, dumping out school papers and lunch containers until the small blue inhaler tumbled onto the floor. He grabbed it and rushed back to Jake. "Here." Small breaths, like Dr. Thompson showed you. Jake took the medicine with shaking hands. Mark sat beside him, rubbing his back in slow circles, counting the seconds until the medication would work. This was the third asthma attack this month. After a few minutes, Jake's breathing eased. "Better now?" Mark asked. Jake nodded. "Sorry I woke you up." "Never apologize for that." Mark smoothed Jake's brown hair, so much like his mother's had been. "I'll always be here when you need me." But as Jake drifted back to sleep, Mark remained awake, staring at the ceiling. The truth was, being there wasn't always enough. The inhaler was almost empty, and Jake's prescription needed refilling. That meant another $87 they didn't have. The next morning, Mark sat at their small kitchen table, bills spread out before him. He counted the cash in his wallet for the third time, $42. Not enough for Jake's medicine, let alone the electricity bill marked "Final Notice" in bright red letters. Jake appeared in the doorway, backpack slung over one shoulder. "Are we having money problems again?" Mark quickly gathered the bills into a pile. "Nothing for you to worry about." "Mom would have worried," Jake said quietly. The mention of Lisa still felt like a punch to the stomach, even 3 years after cancer took her. Mark forced a smile. "Your mom was a worrier. I'm a problem solver, remember? Now eat some cereal before the bus comes." While Jake ate, Mark checked his phone. A text message made his heart sink. "Johnson, project cancelled. Owner went with another contractor. Sorry." That was the third job this month. At this rate, they'd be evicted before summer ended. After dropping Jake at the bus stop, Mark drove to Portland Community Pharmacy. The pharmacist, Tina, greeted him with a sympathetic smile. "Jake's prescription ready?" Mark asked. "Yes, but..." Tina hesitated. "Your insurance denied it again. It's $87 without coverage." Mark handed over his $42. "Can I pay the rest on Friday?" Tina glanced around and lowered her voice. "I can give you a partial refill for what you have. But Mark, you can't keep doing this. Friday, I promise." Mark took the smaller prescription bag, shame burning in his chest. Back in his truck, Mark opened his laptop and checked his email, hoping for job offers. Instead, a real estate listing caught his eye. "Historic farmhouse with orchard, Salem outskirts. Price reduced." The asking price made him blink. It was unusually low for a property with 5 acres. The photos showed a dilapidated 2-story farmhouse with peeling white paint and broken windows, but the structure looked solid. Behind it stood rows of apple trees stretching toward distant hills. With his construction skills, he could renovate it completely and sell for double the investment. This could be the answer to their financial problems. Mark dialed the number listed. "Wilson Real Estate, Tom speaking." "Hi, I'm calling about the farmhouse outside Salem. Is it still available?" "Yes, absolutely." The man's enthusiasm seemed forced. "Are you interested in viewing the property? Can I see it today?" "Today?" Tom sounded surprised. "Well, yes, I suppose I could meet you there at 2 o'clock." The farmhouse looked worse in person. Shutters hung at odd angles, and the front porch sagged like a tired old man. But Mark saw potential in its bones: the Victorian trim, the solid foundation, the spacious layout. Tom Wilson was a thin man with a too bright smile. He rushed through the tour, pointing out features while glossing over obvious problems. "Beautiful original hardwood under this carpet," Tom said, kicking at a stained rug. "Kitchen needs updating, but the space is generous." Mark tested a wall with his knuckles. "The structure seems solid. What's the history here? Why is the price so low?" Tom's smile faltered. "The previous owner passed away. Family wants a quick sale." He checked his watch. "Any other questions? I have another appointment across town." "Who was the previous owner?" "A single mother, I believe." Tom shuffled some papers. "Died of illness. Relative inherited and wants to unload it." Mark walked to a window overlooking the apple orchard. This place could be Jake's fresh start. Open space, clean air for his lungs, and a solid investment for their future. "I'll take it." Tom's eyebrows shot up. "Don't you want to think about it?" "No need. I'm a contractor. I know good bones when I see them." They shook hands, and Tom promised to prepare the paperwork immediately. "We can close by the end of the week if you can secure financing." 3 days later, Mark signed the final papers at Willamette Valley Bank. The loan officer looked doubtful as she handed him the keys. "It's a major fixer-upper, Mr. Johnson." "That's what I do for a living," Mark replied. That weekend, Mark brought Jake to see their investment. The boy stood in the driveway, looking up at the farmhouse with skepticism. "We're not going to live here, are we?" "No, buddy. We're going to fix it up and sell it. Make enough money to get ahead for once." Jake wandered toward the orchard while Mark inspected the exterior. When Mark looked up, Jake was running between apple trees, arms outstretched like airplane wings, laughing. Mark hadn't heard that laugh in months. Maybe it was the open space after years in their cramped apartment, or maybe it was simply being away from the city. But Jake's breathing seemed easier here. "Dad! There's a treehouse!" Jake called from deep in the orchard. For the first time in years, Mark felt hope rising in his chest. 2 weeks later, Mark drove to the farmhouse alone. His truck bed was loaded with lumber, drywall, and tools. He planned to start with basic repairs, fixing broken windows and securing doors before tackling the interior. The key stuck slightly in the front door lock. As he pushed the door open, a floorboard creaked somewhere inside. Mark froze. The house should be empty. "Hello?" he called. Silence answered him, but then came another creak. Someone was definitely inside. Mark grabbed a hammer from his tool belt and moved cautiously through the dusty hallway toward the living room. The sound of whispering reached his ears. He stepped into the living room and stopped in shock. 2 small black girls with identical faces sat huddled by the fireplace. They looked about 8 years old with beaded braids and worn clothing. One clutched an old teddy bear missing an eye. The other held a photo frame protectively against her chest. Their expressions were a mixture of fear and defiance. They didn't run or scream, just stared at him with dark, serious eyes. Mark lowered the hammer. "Who are you? What are you doing in my house?" The girl holding the photo frame lifted her chin. "This isn't your house," she said firmly. "It's our house. Our mom left it for us." Mark stared at the twins, completely baffled. He had the deed in his glove compartment. He'd signed all the paperwork. This was definitely his house now. "Listen, I bought this house fair and square," he said, trying to keep his voice gentle. "Where are your parents? You shouldn't be here alone." The girl with the teddy bear spoke this time, her voice quieter than her sister's but just as determined. "Our mom died, but she left this house to us. We have papers." Mark slowly crouched down to their level, keeping his distance so he wouldn't frighten them. "What's your name?" he asked. "I'm Maya," said the girl with the photo frame. "This is my sister Mia." She held out the frame, showing him a family portrait of the twins with a smiling black woman between them. "That's our mom, Sarah Williams. This is her house." Mark felt a strange chill run down his spine. Tom Wilson had mentioned the previous owner died, leaving the property to a relative. But these children were claiming their mother owned the house. Something wasn't adding up. "How did you get in here?" he asked. Mia pointed to a window. "We know where Mom kept the spare key." "Does anyone know you're here? Is someone looking for you?" The twins exchanged glances before Maya answered. "Our Aunt Karen sold the house, but she wasn't supposed to. Mom's papers say it's ours." Mark's confusion deepened. If these girls were telling the truth, something was very wrong with his property purchase. Before he could ask another question, the rumble of an approaching vehicle made all three of them turn toward the window. A silver SUV was speeding up the gravel driveway, dust billowing behind it. The twins shrank back against the fireplace. Fear replaced defiance in their eyes. "It's Aunt Karen," whispered Mia. "She's mad again." The silver SUV's tires crunched on the gravel driveway as it came to a stop in front of the farmhouse. Mark looked from the twins to the window, trying to make sense of what was happening. These two small girls claimed the house was theirs, left to them by their mother. "Is that your aunt coming?" Mark asked, keeping his voice gentle. Maya nodded, clutching the photo frame tighter. "She'll be mad we came back here." Mark stood up slowly. "Let me talk to her. Maybe we can figure this out together." The front door burst open before he reached the hallway. A well-dressed black woman in her late 30s stormed in, her high-heeled boots clicking angrily on the wooden floor. "Maya! Mia! I told you two to stay away from here." Her voice was sharp with frustration, but when she spotted Mark, she stopped abruptly. "Who are you? What are you doing with my nieces?" Mark held up his hands in a calming gesture. "I'm Mark Johnson. I bought this property last week. I just found the girls here when I came to start renovations." The woman's expression shifted from anger to calculation. She straightened her designer jacket and extended her hand. "Karen Williams. I'm the girls' legal guardian and the one who sold this property." She glanced at the twins, who had moved closer together. "I apologize for any confusion. These two have been difficult since their mother passed." Mark shook her hand, but didn't return her smile. "The girls mentioned their mother owned this house and left it to them." Karen laughed, though it didn't reach her eyes. "Children have such active imaginations. My sister Sarah owned the house, yes. When she died 6 months ago, guardianship of the twins and all property passed to me. I had every legal right to sell." Maya stepped forward, still holding the photo. "Mom's papers say the house is ours. You weren't supposed to sell it." Karen's smile tightened. "Maya, we've discussed this. Sometimes adults have to make difficult decisions for the good of everyone." While they spoke, Mark's attention was drawn to other photos on a dusty shelf. He walked over and picked one up, wiping away the dust with his thumb. It showed a young black woman in graduation robes. Another showed the same woman at a beach. Then a third photo made him freeze. The dusty frame held an image of two teenagers, a young black girl standing next to a teenage boy. The boy's face was unmistakable. It was Mark himself at 16 years old. "Where did you get this?" Mark asked, his voice barely audible. Karen walked over, frowning at the photo. "That's my sister Sarah when she was about 15, I think. Why?" Mark couldn't take his eyes off the picture. "Because the boy in this photo is me." Karen snatched the frame from his hands, studying it with narrowed eyes. "That's impossible. This is some boy Sarah knew in high school. I'm telling you, that's me." Mark pointed to a small scar above the boy's eyebrow. "I got that scar falling out of a tree when I was 12. Sarah Johnson was my sister. We lost touch 15 years ago after a fight about our parents' will." The room fell silent. Mia approached slowly, looking up at Mark with new curiosity. "You're our uncle?" Before Mark could respond, Karen grabbed both twins by their arms. "We're leaving. Now." "Wait," Mark said. "If Sarah was my sister, then these girls are my nieces. We need to talk about this." Karen was already pulling the twins toward the door. "There's nothing to talk about. I have legal guardianship and you have a deed of sale. Everything was done properly." "Mom wanted us to know our family," Maya protested, trying to pull away from Karen's grip. "Enough," Karen snapped. "Get in the car." Mark followed them onto the porch. "At least give me your contact information, please." Karen paused at her SUV, the twins already inside. She pulled a business card from her purse and thrust it at him. "My office number, but don't get any ideas. I've worked too hard to give these girls stability." As the SUV pulled away, Mark stood on the porch, the photograph in one hand and Karen's card in the other. The renovation materials in his truck were forgotten. All he could think about was the possibility that Sarah, his estranged sister, had died, and her daughters were being raised by a woman who seemed determined to erase their mother's wishes. That night in his apartment, Mark couldn't sleep. He kept staring at the photo he'd taken from the farmhouse. It had been taken at Willamette Park the summer before he left home. Sarah had been 15. He was 16. They were smiling, arms around each other's shoulders. 3 months after this photo, they would never speak again. "Dad? Are you okay?" Jake stood in the doorway of Mark's bedroom, rubbing his eyes. "Hey, buddy, I'm fine. Just thinking about some stuff." Jake climbed onto the bed next to him. "Who's that in the picture?" Mark hesitated. "That's your Aunt Sarah, my sister. I didn't know you had a sister. We lost touch a long time ago." Mark put his arm around Jake's shoulders. "But I found out today that she had 2 daughters." "You have cousins, Jake." Jake's eyes widened. "Really? Where are they?" "They live with their aunt right now, but I'm going to try to meet them properly." Mark glanced at the clock. "It's way past your bedtime, though. School tomorrow." After getting Jake back to bed, Mark made a decision. Tomorrow he would get answers. The Salem County Records Office opened at 9 o'clock in the morning. Mark was waiting at the door, having called in sick to his construction job. A clerk named Doris helped him navigate the system. "I'm looking for property records and a will for Sarah Williams, formerly Sarah Johnson," Mark explained. Doris took him to a computer terminal. "Start with the property search. If we find the deed, we can trace the ownership history." After 20 minutes of searching, they found it. The farmhouse had belonged to a maternal aunt who left it to Sarah Johnson 7 years ago. Sarah's married name was indeed Williams. "Now let's check for a will," Doris suggested. The will was filed 6 months ago, shortly after Sarah's death. Mark read it with growing anger. According to the document, Sarah had explicitly stated that the farmhouse should pass directly to Maya and Mia Williams upon her death, with a trust established to maintain the property until they turned 18. "This doesn't make sense," Mark said. "If the will says the property goes to the children, how could their aunt sell it?" Doris frowned. She couldn't, legally. Not without a court order overriding the will, which would be very difficult to obtain. Mark's next stop was Tom Wilson's office. The real estate agent looked uncomfortable the moment Mark walked in. "Mr. Johnson, how's the farmhouse renovation coming along?" Mark placed the property documents on Tom's desk. "Did you know about Sarah Williams' will when you sold me that house?" Tom's smile faltered. "I don't know what your—" "The will specifically left the property to her daughters. It was never Karen Williams to sell." Tom's shoulders sagged. "Look, she said the guardianship gave her the right to liquidate assets for the children's care. She offered me an extra $2,000 to expedite the sale without too many questions. You sold me a property that wasn't legally available for sale," Mark said, his voice low but firm. "I can give you a refund," Tom offered quickly. "Full amount, cash, today." Mark shook his head. "I don't want a refund. I want to make this right." Those girls lost their mother, and now they've lost their home too. His final stop that day was at the office of Linda Martinez, a family lawyer recommended by Doris at the records office. Linda listened intently as Mark explained the situation, occasionally jotting notes. "Let me understand," she said when he finished. "You've discovered that the previous owner of this farmhouse was your estranged sister. Her will left the property to her twin daughters, but their guardian, your sister's sister-in-law, sold it to you illegally. And now you want to... What exactly?" "I want to make sure those girls get what their mother intended for them," Mark said. "And I want to know them." "They're my family." Linda tapped her pen against her notepad. "We have several options. We could file to invalidate the sale based on fraud, which would get you your money back but might leave the girls in an unchanged situation with their aunt. Or what? Or we could file for temporary custody while investigating the fraudulent sale. That would allow you to protect both the girls and their inheritance." Mark thought about Jake, already struggling with the loss of his mother. Now these two girls who had also lost their mother were being denied their inheritance and possibly their safety as well. "Let's do that," he said. "Let's file for temporary custody. Those girls deserve to know they have family who cares about what happens to them." Linda nodded, already pulling out forms. "I should warn you, custody battles can get messy. Karen Williams won't give up easily, especially if she's already spent the money from the sale." "I understand," Mark said. "But I have to try. Sarah would have done the same for Jake if our situations were reversed." As Mark drove home that evening, his mind was full of memories of his sister and questions about the nieces he never knew he had. He wondered what Sarah had told them about him, if anything. He wondered how Jake would react to suddenly having cousins in his life. Most of all, he wondered how he would explain to two grieving 8-year-old girls that he was the brother their mother had lost touch with years ago, and that he wanted to be part of their lives now. 3 days after meeting with Linda Martinez, Mark sat in a small conference room at the Portland County Courthouse. Linda arranged papers on the table in front of Judge Helen Baker, a serious-looking woman with gray hair and glasses. "Your Honor, we're requesting emergency temporary custody based on 2 key factors," Linda explained. "First, the fraudulent sale of property that legally belongs to the minor children. Second, concerns about their current guardian's fitness." Judge Baker reviewed the documents. "These are serious allegations, Ms. Martinez. Do you have evidence supporting them?" "Yes, Your Honor." Linda presented copies of Sarah's will, the property records, and a sworn statement from Tom Wilson admitting to the rushed sale. The judge studied the papers carefully. "Mr. Johnson, you're claiming to be these children's maternal uncle, correct?" "Yes, Your Honor." Mark passed forward the photograph from the farmhouse. "That's me and Sarah as teenagers. We lost touch many years ago, but she was my sister." After 20 minutes of questions, Judge Baker made her decision. "I'm granting temporary custody to Mr. Johnson pending a full investigation. The children will remain in his care while we sort out the property matter and evaluate the current guardian's actions." Mark felt a mix of relief and panic as the judge signed the order. He was now responsible for 2 8-year-old girls he had just discovered existed. "What happens next?" he asked Linda as they left the courthouse. "You need to pick them up today. I'll call Karen Williams to inform her of the court order." Linda handed him a folder. "Here's information about enrolling them in school and their medical records that we subpoenaed." That afternoon, Mark drove to Karen's apartment building in downtown Portland. It was an expensive high-rise with a doorman and marble floors in the lobby. He felt out of place in his work boots and flannel shirt. Karen opened her door looking tired but not surprised. "The lawyer called. I expected you sooner." Mark stepped inside the spotless apartment. Modern furniture and abstract art filled the space, but no toys or children's belongings were visible. "Where are the girls?" he asked. "Packing." Karen gestured toward a hallway. "Don't expect gratitude. They blame me for everything since Sarah died." Mark wasn't sure how to respond. The judge's order is temporary. This doesn't have to be hostile." Karen laughed without humor. "Those girls are exhausting. Always talking about the farmhouse, always wanting to go back there. They don't understand that life is expensive." Before Mark could reply, Maya and Mia appeared in the hallway. Each carried a black garbage bag filled with clothes and a small backpack. They looked at Mark with suspicion. "Girls, you remember Mr. Johnson?" Karen said flatly. "The judge says you'll be staying with him for a while?" "Why?" Maya demanded. Mark knelt down to their eye level. "There's something I need to show you." He pulled out the teenage photograph from his pocket. "The girl in this picture is your mom. The boy is me. Your mom was my sister, which makes me your uncle." Mia took the photo, examining it closely. "You're our mom's brother?" She talked about a brother sometimes. "What did she say?" Mark asked, surprised. "That he was stubborn but had a good heart," Maya answered, "and that she missed him." Mark felt his throat tighten. "I missed her too. I didn't know about you two until I found you at the farmhouse, but I'd like to get to know you if that's okay." The twins exchanged a look, having a silent conversation only they understood. "Will we get to go back to our house?" Mia finally asked. "We're working on that," Mark promised. "Right now, you'll stay at my apartment with me and my son Jake. He's 10. We have a cousin?" Maya seemed surprised by this. Karen interrupted, handing Mark a folder. "Their school information and medical cards are in here. Maya needs her inhaler during physical activity. Mia has trouble sleeping." Her voice softened slightly. "They like pancakes for breakfast, with blueberries." In the car, the twins sat silently in the back seat, their garbage bags between them. Mark tried to make conversation. "My apartment isn't very big, but we'll make it work until we figure everything out." "Are you rich like Aunt Karen?" Mia asked. Mark laughed. "No, definitely not. I'm a contractor. I fix houses for a living." "Will you fix our mom's house?" Maya asked. "I'm going to try," Mark promised. When they arrived at his apartment building, Mark felt embarrassed by its shabbiness compared to Karen's place. The elevator was out of order, so they climbed 3 flights of stairs. The twins didn't complain, even carrying their heavy bags. Mark opened his apartment door. "Jake, we're home." Jake emerged from his room, stopping when he saw the twins. His expression was guarded, unwelcoming. "Jake, these are your cousins, Maya and Mia. They're going to stay with us for a while." "In our apartment?" Jake asked, frowning. "Where? There's no space." Mark had prepared for this. "They'll take my room. I'll use the pull-out couch." "But we already have to share the bathroom, and it's small," Jake protested. "Jake, please." Mark gave him a look that said, "Not now." Dinner was uncomfortably quiet. Jake picked at his food, avoiding eye contact with the twins. Maya and Mia whispered to each other occasionally, eating little. "Tomorrow we'll get you enrolled in Jake's school," Mark told the twins. "It's a good school not far from here." "We want to go back to our school," Maya said firmly. "I know, but it's too far from here," Mark explained. "This is temporary until we sort everything out." After dinner, Mark showed the twins to his bedroom. "You two can sleep here. I put clean sheets on the bed." Mia looked around the plain room. "Where are our things from the farmhouse?" "We'll go there this weekend, okay? You can show me what's important to you." Later, as Mark made up the couch for himself, Jake appeared in his pajamas. "I don't want them here," he whispered. "It was better when it was just us." Mark sighed. "I know this is hard, buddy. But they're family and they need our help right now. Why can't their aunt take care of them?" "It's complicated. She wasn't following their mom's wishes." Jake crossed his arms. "Mom would say you're trying to save everyone again." The next morning was chaos. Mark had forgotten how long it took to get one child ready for school. Getting 3 children prepared seemed impossible. "Maya, the bathroom's free now," Mark called, making lunches in the kitchen. "I can't find my shoes," Mia complained. "I'm going to be late for math," Jake grumbled. By some miracle, They made it to school on time. The principal, Mrs. Cooper, welcomed the twins warmly. "We're happy to have you join us. Jake can show you around today." Jake looked horrified at the suggestion. "But I have different classes." "Just for today," Mrs. Cooper insisted. At work, Mark could barely focus. His phone kept buzzing with school-related calls. "Mr. Johnson, we need emergency contact forms completed." "Mr. Johnson, Maya forgot her lunch." "Mr. Johnson, the girls need your signature for computer access." By Friday, everyone was exhausted and irritable. Mark decided they needed a break. "Tomorrow we're going to the farmhouse," he announced at dinner. "We can work on some basic repairs and the twins can show us around." For the first time that week, the twins smiled. Even Jake looked less unhappy. Saturday morning they drove to Salem. The farmhouse looked exactly the same but felt different to Mark now that he understood its importance. "This was Mom's favorite spot," Mia said, showing Mark a space near the porch where faded flowers struggled to grow. "She planted roses here every spring," Maya added. Mark noticed Jake hanging back, kicking at the dirt. "Jake, want to help me fix this porch step? I could use a strong assistant." Reluctantly, Jake joined him. Mark showed him how to measure the wood and mark cutting lines. The twins watched with interest. "Can we help too?" Mia asked. "Sure." Mark handed her a pencil. "You can mark this board while Jake holds it steady." To Mark's surprise, Jake didn't object. Soon all three children were working together, with Maya holding nails and Mia helping measure. By afternoon they had repaired the steps and cleared some overgrown bushes. Mark found an old toolbox in the shed and let the children use the smaller tools to build a simple birdhouse from scrap wood. "Mom used to let us help her fix things too," Maya told Jake as they worked. "She said girls should know how to use tools." "My mom couldn't even hang a picture," Jake admitted. "Dad did all the fixing stuff." "Our moms both died," Mia said quietly. Jake nodded. "It sucks." That simple exchange seemed to shift something between the children. That night back at the apartment, Mark was awakened by crying. He found Maya sitting up in bed, tears streaming down her face. "I had a bad dream," she whispered. "Someone was taking our house away again." Mark sat on the edge of the bed. "No one's taking your house away. I promise I'll fight for it." "You won't leave like everyone else?" Maya's voice was small. "I'm not going anywhere," Mark assured her. "We're family." The next morning, all three children worked together building a fort out of blankets in the living room. Mark was making breakfast when his phone rang. "Mark, it's Linda. Karen has hired Prescott and James. They're the most expensive family law firm in Portland. She's claiming you only want custody for financial gain from the property." Mark watched the children playing together, Jake showing the twins how to secure a blanket corner with books. "She's wrong," he said firmly. "This isn't about money anymore. Karen's lawyer is already requesting financial records and employment history," Linda continued through the phone. "They're trying to paint you as opportunistic." Mark watched the children in their blanket fort. "What do we do next?" "We need to understand Sarah's life better," Linda said, "and why Karen is fighting so hard for this property. Can you take a day off work?" The following Tuesday, Mark drove to Eugene after dropping the children at school. He hadn't been back to his hometown in 15 years. The streets looked smaller than he remembered, the houses more weathered. He parked in front of a modest blue house with white trim, his childhood home. Different curtains hung in the windows now, and the maple tree in the yard had grown taller, but it was unmistakably the house where he and Sarah had grown up. As Mark sat in his truck staring at the house, the door of the neighboring property opened. An elderly woman with silver hair stepped onto her porch, watering can in hand. "Mrs. Peterson?" Mark called, recognizing his parents' former neighbor. The woman squinted, then broke into a wide smile. "Mark Johnson? Is that really you?" They sat on her porch swing, drinking lemonade as Mark explained his situation. "I can't believe Sarah's gone," Mrs. Peterson said, her eyes filling with tears. "Such a lovely person. She came by here about once a year, you know, always asking if I'd heard from you. She was looking for me? Mark asked, surprised. Mrs. Peterson nodded. For years, she wanted to make things right between you two. She patted his hand. Sarah figured out what your parents did, how they turned you two against each other. What do you mean? Your father was in financial trouble, gambling debts. When your grandmother left that inheritance, they needed it. So they made sure you and Sarah fought over it, then took it all while you weren't speaking to each other. Mrs. Peterson shook her head. Sarah discovered the truth when your mother got drunk at a family funeral 7 years ago and confessed everything. Sarah tried to find you after that. Mark felt like the ground was shifting beneath him. Our parents lied to us? Made us fight? I'm afraid so, dear. Sarah forgave them eventually, even helped your father get into a treatment program for his gambling, but she never stopped looking for you. And now it's too late, Mark said softly. Back in Portland, Mark pulled into the school parking lot just as classes were ending. He'd received a call from the principal that Maya had gotten into a fight. In the office, Maya sat on a plastic chair, arms crossed, a defiant look on her face. Mr. Johnson, thank you for coming, Principal Cooper said. Maya had an altercation with another student today. She called me a stupid, Maya said immediately, and said we were charity cases. The principal sighed. While Brittany's comments were unkind, we don't solve problems with pushing, Maya. Mark knelt beside Maya's chair. Did you push this girl? She made Mia cry, Maya said, her own eyes filling with tears. No one gets to make Mia cry. That evening, after sending all 3 children to bed, Mark sat at the kitchen table with bills and custody paperwork spread before him. His boss had called earlier, warning him about taking too much time off. The custody battle was affecting his work, and money was tighter than ever. His phone buzzed with a text from Linda. Investigator photographed your apartment today. Expect them to use housing size in court. 2 days later, Mark attended a parent-teacher conference at the school. Ms. Ramirez, the twins' teacher, greeted him warmly. I wanted to discuss the girls' academic needs, she explained. They're both exceptionally bright. Maya excels in mathematics, and Mia shows remarkable talent for writing and art. Their mother was very intelligent, Mark said. She was studying architecture before we lost touch. Ms. Ramirez nodded. They need more challenging work, but I'm concerned about their emotional state. They rarely interact with other children besides each other and your son. Mia mentioned they might be moving again soon. There's a custody situation, Mark admitted. Their aunt is fighting me for guardianship. I see. That explains their anxiety. Children need stability, Mr. Johnson. Whatever happens with the custody case, these girls need to know they have a permanent home somewhere. That weekend, Mark took the children back to the farmhouse. While the twins showed Jake their mother's old garden tools, Mark continued repairs on the porch. Dad, look! Jake called from inside. There's a loose board under the window seat. Mark found the 3 children in the living room examining a window seat with a partially detached baseboard. Be careful. There might be nails, Mark warned, kneeling to inspect it. Mia pointed to a small gap. I think there's something inside. Mark gently removed the loose board. Hidden in the space behind it was a stack of envelopes tied with blue ribbon. These have your name on them, Uncle Mark, Mia said, pulling out one of the envelopes. Mark recognized Sarah's handwriting immediately. The letters were addressed to him, dated over a period of 5 years. The most recent was from just 8 months ago. Can we read them? Maya asked. They sat in a circle on the dusty floor as Mark opened the first letter. Dear Mark, he read aloud. Another year has passed, and I still don't know where you are. Mom finally told me the truth about what happened between us. They lied to both of us, Mark. The things they said you did, the things they told you I said, none of it was true. They needed our inheritance money to pay Dad's gambling debts, and they made sure we would fight over it so they could solve the problem by taking it all. I've been trying to find you to tell you the truth. I have so much to tell you about my life. I'm married now, with twin daughters who would love to meet their uncle." Mark's voice broke. He passed the letter to Maya, who continued reading. They spent hours going through the letters. Sarah had documented her life, her search for Mark, and her hopes that one day her children would know their uncle. The final letter, written after her cancer diagnosis, expressed her regret that they might never reconcile. "I wanted my girls to know you," Sarah had written, "to have family beyond just Karen who means well but doesn't understand what they need. If you ever find this letter, please know that I forgave you long ago, and I hope you can forgive me too." That night, after returning to the apartment, Jake woke everyone with a severe coughing fit. His breathing was labored, his face pale. "Can't breathe," he gasped. "Where's your inhaler?" Mark searched frantically. "Used last one. Yesterday." Mark bundled everyone into the truck and raced to Portland Memorial Hospital. At the emergency room, Jake was taken immediately for treatment while Mark filled out paperwork with the twins huddled beside him. "Mark?" He looked up to see Karen standing in the hospital lobby in scrubs. "What are you doing here?" he asked, surprised. "I'm still listed as the twins' emergency contact. The school called when you took them out early." She looked toward the treatment area. "Is Jake okay?" "Asthma attack. He ran out of medication." Karen's expression softened. "I'll check on him. I volunteer here on weekends." When she returned, she sat beside Mark. "They're giving him a breathing treatment. He'll be fine." Mark nodded gratefully. "Thank you." "You look exhausted," Karen observed. "3 kids, custody battle, trying to keep my job." "Yeah, I'm tired." Karen was quiet for a moment. "I never wanted to hurt the girls, you know. After Sarah died, I was just trying to do what seemed best." Before Mark could respond, a nurse called his name. Jake was ready to be discharged. As they were leaving, Karen touched Mark's arm. "The hearing is set for next Friday. My lawyer says we'll likely win based on your financial situation and housing limitations." "We found Sarah's letters," Mark told her. "She wrote to me for years, Karen. She wanted her daughters to know me." Karen's expression hardened. "Letters don't change the fact that you can barely support yourself and Jake, let alone add 2 more children." The next morning, Linda called with more news. Karen's filed additional motions. She wants the farmhouse sold and the proceeds put in a trust that she would control as financial guardian. Mark thought about the letters, about Sarah's hopes for her daughters. There's something else going on here. Why is she so determined to sell that property specifically? "Good question," Linda agreed. "Let's look deeper into those property records." That afternoon, while the children did homework, Mark searched through the papers they'd brought from the farmhouse. In a folder marked Property, he found something unexpected: detailed plans for developing the land into luxury homes, dated just 2 weeks after Sarah's death. A note in the margin, written in unfamiliar handwriting, read, "Potential value, $2.5 million after rezoning." Mark stared at the plans. The farmhouse property wasn't just a home. It was potentially worth millions with the right development. No wonder Karen had been so quick to sell it to him at a fraction of its value. She'd needed fast cash, but the real money would come from development rights. The custody battle suddenly made more sense. This wasn't just about the twins. It was about millions of dollars. And Mark now held the proof in his hands. Mark immediately called Linda. "I found development plans for the farmhouse property. They estimate it could be worth $2.5 million after rezoning." "That explains a lot," Linda replied. "Karen isn't just fighting for custody. She's fighting for control of a potential fortune." "We need to keep these documents safe," Mark said, looking over his shoulder at the children doing homework. "I don't trust Karen anymore." The following morning, Mark met with his boss, Bill Tucker, at the construction site in downtown Portland. Rain dripped from their hard hats as they talked. "Mark, you've missed 6 days in the last 3 weeks," Bill said, checking his clipboard. You're one of my best workers, but I'm running a business here. I know, Bill. I've got this custody situation." "So you've said." Bill sighed. "Look, I need someone reliable for this hotel renovation. It's a big contract. Either you're here every day next week, or I need to give your position to someone else." Mark's stomach tightened. "I have a court hearing next Friday." "Then I guess we have a problem." Bill clapped him on the shoulder. "Take the rest of today to think about your priorities. Let me know your decision tomorrow." At school, Mark arrived early to pick up the children. Ms. Ramirez waved him into her classroom where Jake and the twins were working on a project together. "They've been inseparable today," Ms. Ramirez said quietly. "Jake has been so protective of the girls since that bullying incident last week." Mark watched as Jake showed the twins how to measure angles for their science project. Maya laughed at something he said, and Mia carefully wrote down the measurements in her neat handwriting. "Jake's breathing seems better," Ms. Ramirez noted. "New medication," Mark explained. "The doctor thinks the country air at the farmhouse might be good for his asthma too." That evening, while the children watched TV, Mark worked in the small bedroom he now shared with Jake. He pulled out scrap wood from his truck and began measuring and cutting. Jake appeared in the doorway. "What are you making?" A surprise for the twins. Mark held up a sketch. "Remember that photo of their bedroom at the farmhouse? I'm building them bedside tables that match the ones their mother made." Jake sat on the bed watching. "Can I help?" "Absolutely." Mark handed him sandpaper. "Start smoothing these edges." They worked together in comfortable silence for a while before Jake spoke again. "Dad, are we going to lose the twins?" Mark put down his drill. "Why do you ask that? I heard you talking on the phone about the court hearing." Jake kept his eyes on his sanding. "Maya's worried they'll have to go back to Aunt Karen's." "I'm doing everything I can to keep us all together," Mark promised. Jake nodded. "Good, because they're not annoying anymore. Well, Maya still talks too much, but she's pretty funny, and Mia showed me how to draw perspective, which is really cool." Mark smiled, touched by his son's change of heart. "When did you become such a good kid?" "Mom always said I was good," Jake replied with a small smile. "Just stubborn like you." 2 days later, Karen arrived at the apartment for her scheduled visitation. She wore expensive clothes and carried shopping bags. "Ready for our day out, girls?" she asked brightly. Maya crossed her arms. "Where are we going?" "I thought we'd start at Pioneer Place Mall. You both need new clothes." Karen held up the shopping bags. "I already picked up some things from Nordstrom." Mark watched the interaction carefully. "Have them back by 6, please." "Of course." Karen's smile didn't reach her eyes. "We'll have a lovely time." At the upscale restaurant where Karen took the twins for lunch, Maya picked at her salad while Mia sipped her lemonade. Their shopping bags sat beside them, filled with clothes they hadn't asked for. "Are you enjoying staying with your uncle?" Karen asked, cutting her chicken into small pieces. "He's nice," Mia said. "He's building us furniture like the ones Mom made." Karen raised her eyebrows. "Is he? How thoughtful. Have you found anything interesting at the farmhouse lately?" Maya shot Mia a warning look, but Mia continued innocently. "We found Mom's letters to Uncle Mark. She wrote to him for years." "Really?" Karen leaned forward. "What else did you find? Any papers about the house?" "Some boring stuff in folders," Mia said. "Uncle Mark was reading them yesterday." Maya kicked her sister under the table. Karen smiled. "Maybe I could come see the farmhouse again sometime." "For memories of your mother." When Karen returned the twins to the apartment, it was almost 8 o'clock, 2 hours late. The girls ran inside while Mark confronted Karen in the hallway. "You said 6 o'clock, he said firmly. "We were having fun." Lost track of time. Karen shrugged. "By the way, the girls mentioned finding some interesting documents at the farmhouse." "Cut the act, Karen." Mark crossed his arms. "I know about the development plans. I know what that property is really worth." Karen's friendly demeanor vanished. "You have no idea what I've been through." Do you know how much Sarah's cancer treatments cost? How much I paid to help her? So this is about money you think you're owed? I'm in debt up to my eyeballs, Karen hissed. I maxed out my credit cards paying for Sarah's experimental treatments that the insurance wouldn't cover. I took unpaid leave to care for her. Then suddenly I'm responsible for 2 children with nothing but a rundown farmhouse to show for it. That rundown farmhouse is worth millions with the right development, Mark said, and it belongs to Maya and Mia, not you. Karen's eyes filled with tears. You have no right to judge me. I did everything I could for Sarah, everything, and now I have my own medical bills to worry about. What are you talking about? Karen wiped her eyes angrily. I found a lump 3 months ago, same cancer Sarah had. The irony is just perfect, isn't it? I need those development rights, Mark. I need them to survive. Mark was stunned. Karen, Save it. Karen turned to leave. The hearing is in 6 days. My lawyers are very good at what they do. That night, Mark couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Karen's revelation and what it meant for the twins. Around 2 in the morning, his phone buzzed with an alert from the security system he had installed at the farmhouse. On his phone screen, he saw footage of a man using a crowbar to force open the back door. Mark immediately called the Salem police. Someone's breaking into my property at 1428 Orchard Lane, he reported. I have live security footage. By the time Mark arrived at the farmhouse, police cars were parked in the driveway. An officer approached as he got out of his truck. We got him, the officer said. Found him searching through papers in the living room. Mark followed the officer inside. Sitting handcuffed on the couch was a man Mark had never seen before. Says his name is David Prescott, the officer explained. Claims he was just retrieving items for the property's rightful owner. Prescott? As in Prescott and James, Karen's law firm? The man looked away. What was he looking for? Mark asked. We found him in here with these. The officer handed Mark a folder. He'd gathered these documents. Mark opened the folder to find the development plans and mineral rights documents he had discovered earlier, plus several more papers he hadn't seen before. I want to press charges, Mark told the officer. After giving his statement, Mark surveyed the damage to the farmhouse. The back door was broken and papers were scattered across the floor. Looking at the mess, he made a decision. Early the next morning, he gathered the children in the living room of his apartment. I have something important to tell you all, he began. Last night, someone broke into the farmhouse trying to steal documents about the property. Was it Aunt Karen? Maya asked immediately. It was someone connected to her, Mark admitted. The police arrested him. But I don't think it's safe to leave the house empty anymore, and I don't think we're going to win this custody case if we stay in this small apartment. Jake looked worried. What are we going to do? We're going to move to the farmhouse, Mark said. Today. I've called the school and taken emergency family leave from work. But the farmhouse isn't fixed yet, Mia pointed out. We'll fix it together while we're living there, Mark explained. The kitchen and bathrooms work. We'll make the rest livable as we go. What about your job? Jake asked. Mark took a deep breath. Sometimes you have to choose what's most important. Right now, keeping our family together is more important than anything else. Maya stood up and hugged him suddenly. We'll help fix it. Mom taught us how to paint. That afternoon, they packed the truck and Mark's car with everything they could fit. As they pulled away from the apartment building, Mark felt both terrified and certain. He was risking his job and financial stability, but for the first time since Lisa died, he was fighting for something that felt completely right. At the farmhouse, Mark installed new locks and additional security cameras. The children helped unload their belongings, choosing bedrooms and making plans for decorating. As night fell, they ate pizza on the porch, watching the sunset over the orchard. Mom loved this view, Mia said softly. Mark put his arm around her shoulders. Tomorrow we'll start making this house a home again. For all of us. Later that night, after the children were asleep, Mark received a text message from Karen. My lawyer says you've moved to the farmhouse. This won't look good for you at the hearing. Last chance to settle this reasonably." Mark looked at the sleeping children, all piled into one bedroom with sleeping bags and pillows. They had insisted on staying together their first night in the new house. He texted back, "I'm not settling. These children deserve their mother's legacy, and I intend to make sure they get it." Mark slept on the farmhouse living room floor that night, keeping watch over the newly installed security system. Morning came too quickly, bringing with it the realization that the custody hearing was just 2 days away. Linda arrived at the farmhouse that afternoon with a serious expression. Karen's lawyers have been busy. They've prepared financial statements, school reports, and housing evaluations. They plan to show you're unstable. Mark gestured around the half-renovated living room. "Moving here probably didn't help my case." "Actually, it might." Linda surveyed the space. "The judge needs to see you're committed to preserving the girls' connection to their mother, but we need to make it presentable before Friday." For the next 48 hours, the family worked non-stop. They cleaned, painted, and organized. Mark installed new windows while Jake and the twins sorted through boxes of their mother's belongings. By Thursday night, the farmhouse looked lived in and cared for, if not fully renovated. After dinner, Mark gathered everyone at the kitchen table. "I need to talk to you all about tomorrow. The court hearing will decide if the twins stay with us or go back to Karen." "We're not going back," Maya said firmly. "I hope not," Mark replied, "but I need you all to understand what will happen. We'll dress in our best clothes. The judge will ask questions. Lawyers will talk a lot. It might get uncomfortable." "Will we have to speak?" Mia asked quietly. "Probably not, but be ready just in case. The most important thing is to tell the truth if anyone asks you questions." That night, after everyone went to bed, Mia sat alone in the room she shared with Maya. She pulled her old teddy bear from her backpack and carefully opened a hidden seam in its back. From inside, she removed a small book with a faded floral cover. It was her mother's diary, something she hadn't shown anyone. Not even Maya. Mia flipped through the pages, reading her mother's handwriting by flashlight. Many entries talked about her search for her brother Mark, her hopes for her daughters, and her concerns about Karen. Mia tucked the diary back into the teddy bear and stitched the seam closed with careful fingers. Friday morning arrived with heavy rain. Mark helped Jake with his tie while the twins put on the dresses Karen had bought them. "You look very grown up," Mark told them. Maya fidgeted with her collar. "Mom said we should always wear comfortable clothes to important events, but these are itchy." "Your mother was a wise woman," Mark smiled. "But today we need to look our best." At the courthouse, Linda met them in the lobby. "Karen and her lawyers are already inside. Remember, stay calm, no matter what they say." The courtroom was smaller than Mark expected, with wooden benches and a raised platform where Judge Helen Baker now sat. Karen sat at one table with 2 lawyers in expensive suits. Linda guided Mark and the children to the opposite table. Judge Baker called the room to order. "This is the matter of custody for minors Maya and Mia Williams. We'll hear opening statements, then testimony." Karen's lawyer, a tall man with silver hair, approached the front. "Your Honor, this case is about stability and the best interests of 2 young girls who lost their mother. My client, Karen Williams, has been a consistent presence in their lives since birth. She is financially secure, with a suitable home and resources to provide for their needs." He turned, pointing at Mark. "Mr. Johnson, on the other hand, is an opportunistic relative who never showed interest in these children until valuable property was involved. He has unstable employment, inadequate housing, and significant financial problems. The timing of his sudden interest in family connections cannot be ignored." Linda's opening statement was brief but powerful. "Your Honor, Mark Johnson only recently discovered these children existed. Their mother, his estranged sister, spent years trying to reconnect with him. When he learned about his nieces, he didn't hesitate to provide a loving home. The property issue is secondary to the more important fact. Sarah Williams wanted her children to know their uncle. Her written wishes make that clear. The first witness was a financial expert hired by Karen's team. He presented charts showing Mark's income, late bill payments, and the small apartment where they had lived. In my professional opinion, the expert concluded, Mr. Johnson lacks the financial stability to support 2 additional children. Next came Karen's testimony. She wore a conservative blue dress and spoke softly about her relationship with the twins. I've been part of their lives since they were born, Karen said, dabbing at her eyes. Sarah and I were like sisters. When she got sick, I promised to care for her girls. And why did you sell the farmhouse? Her lawyer asked. It was in terrible condition. The girls needed proper housing, good schools, and security. The sale was completely legal under my guardianship. During cross-examination, Linda asked, if you care so deeply for the girls, why did you ignore their mother's explicit wishes in her will? Karen shifted uncomfortably. I was doing what seemed best at the time. And the development plans for the property? Were those also what seemed best? Karen's face paled. I don't know what you're talking about. Linda presented the development plans found at the farmhouse. These were dated 2 weeks after Sarah's death, showing potential profits of $2.5 million. Did you pursue this sale for the girls' benefit or your own? When Mark took the stand, he spoke honestly about discovering his connection to the twins and learning about Sarah's attempts to find him. I missed 15 years with my sister because of a misunderstanding, Mark said. I can't get that time back. But I can honor her wishes for her daughters. Karen's lawyer was aggressive during cross-examination. You were unemployed when you filed for custody, correct? I took emergency leave to protect the children, Mark clarified. And you're currently living in an unfinished house with inadequate heating and only 1 working bathroom? We're renovating it together. It's their mother's house. Isn't it true you only became interested in these children when you realized the property's value? No, Mark said firmly. I became interested when I learned they were my family. After a short recess, the judge returned looking troubled. I've reviewed the evidence from both sides. While I understand Mr. Johnson's desire to connect with his nieces, I must consider stability and resources. At this time, I'm inclined to— Wait! Mia suddenly stood up, clutching her teddy bear. I have something important! The courtroom fell silent as Mia walked forward. Judge Baker leaned down. What is it, sweetheart? My mom's words, Mia said, opening the teddy bear's seam and pulling out the diary. She wrote down what she wanted for us. The judge accepted the diary, examining it carefully. This appears to be Sarah Williams' personal journal. I kept it safe, Mia explained. Mom wrote in it every night. Judge Baker began reading selected entries aloud. April 12th. Another birthday for the girls. Another year without my brother to share it. I've left messages with every Mark Johnson I can find, hoping one is him. The girls should know their uncle. He has the same gentle strength their father had. She turned several pages. October 3rd. Karen suggested selling the farmhouse again today. She doesn't understand what this place means to us. This is our heritage, the girls' future. I've updated my will to make it clear. This home stays with my daughters. The judge continued. December 18th. The doctors say the treatments aren't working. I'm preparing letters for Mark, hoping somehow he'll find them. Karen means well, but she sees the girls as burdens, not blessings. She doesn't understand their spirits, their needs. If Mark ever reads this, I want him to know my greatest regret is that my daughters never knew their uncle. The courtroom was silent when Judge Baker finished reading. She called for an immediate recess to review this new evidence. In the hallway, Mark approached Karen, who stood alone by a window. Did you know about the diary? He asked quietly. Karen shook her head. Sarah was always writing. I never read her private thoughts. Mark reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded paper. I found this yesterday hidden behind another loose baseboard. It's addressed to both of us." Karen took the letter with trembling hands. Sarah's handwriting filled the page. "To my brother and my friend, if you're reading this together, then something has brought you both into my daughter's lives. Karen, you've been my rock through illness and hardship, but you never understood what the girls truly need. Mark, I never stopped hoping you would find your way back to our family, though you never knew it existed. Please don't fight over what remains of me. My girls need both of you, Karen's practicality and Mark's heart. The house, the land, these are just things. My daughters are my legacy. Love them together, as I have loved you both." Karen covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "I was so angry after she died. The medical bills, the funeral costs, suddenly being responsible for 2 children, I just wanted a clean break, a fresh start." "It doesn't have to be all or nothing," Mark said gently. "The girls need you in their lives too. You're their connection to their mother in ways I can never be." When court resumed, Karen approached the judge before anyone could speak. "Your Honor, I'd like to withdraw my petition for full custody," she said clearly. "I believe Sarah's wishes are best honored by allowing the children to remain with their uncle at the farmhouse. I would like to request regular visitation rights." Judge Baker looked surprised, but nodded. "Are you certain, Miss Williams?" "Yes, Your Honor. Sarah wanted her brother to know her children. I should have respected that from the beginning." The judge turned to Mark. "Mr. Johnson, do you agree to Ms. Williams having regular visitation with her nieces?" "Absolutely," Mark said. "They need both of us in their lives." Judge Baker nodded. "Then I'll grant primary custody to Mr. Johnson with Ms. Williams to have visitation every other weekend and 1 evening per week. Furthermore, I'm nullifying the property sale as it violated the terms of Sarah Williams' will. The farmhouse legally belongs to Maya and Mia Williams, with Mr. Johnson serving as trustee until they turn 18. As they left the courtroom, Maya whispered to her sister, "How long have you had Mom's diary?" Mia smiled. "Since the day she died. I was saving it for when we really needed her." On the drive home from the courthouse, Maya kept questioning her sister. "You never even showed me the diary." "We tell each other everything." "It was Mom's secret words," Mia explained quietly. "I was waiting for the right time." Mark watched them in the rearview mirror, still processing everything that had happened. The custody battle was over. The farmhouse legally belonged to the twins. Now came the real work, turning this house into a home. That evening they celebrated with pizza on the farmhouse porch. The rain had stopped, and the setting sun turned the wet apple trees golden. "So what happens now?" Jake asked, grabbing another slice. "Now we rebuild," Mark answered. "The house, our lives, everything." Maya looked up from her plate. "Can we paint our room yellow? Mom always said she wanted to." "Absolutely," Mark nodded. "Tomorrow we'll make a plan for each room. This is your home. You should help decide how it looks." The following morning, Mark spread a large piece of paper on the kitchen table. "Let's make a renovation map. Which room should we fix first?" "The kitchen," Maya said immediately. "Mom loved cooking." "The bathroom," Jake countered. "1 bathroom for 4 people is tough." "What about the leaky roof?" Mia pointed to water stains on the ceiling. Mark laughed. "All good points. Let's prioritize roof first, because it protects everything else. Then bathroom, then kitchen. We'll tackle one project at a time." Over the next week, they settled into a new routine. Mark enrolled the children in a school closer to Salem, just 10 minutes from the farmhouse. He found a job with a local construction company that specialized in historic buildings. "They're interested in my restoration experience," he told the children after his interview. "The pay is better than my old job, and it's only 15 minutes away." "Does that mean we're staying here forever?" Jake asked. "If that's what everyone wants," Mark replied, looking at each child's face. Maya and Mia nodded enthusiastically. After a moment, Jake smiled too. I like it here. I haven't had an asthma attack since we moved. Saturday morning brought their first visitor. Karen arrived with grocery bags and cleaning supplies. I thought I'd help with the house today, she said, standing awkwardly on the porch. If that's okay? Mark hesitated only briefly before opening the door wider. We could use the help. We're patching the roof today. Karen's designer clothes were replaced with jeans and a t-shirt. She looked younger, less severe. The twins watched her cautiously as she unpacked fresh groceries. I brought ingredients for lunch, she said, and some cleaning supplies for the bathrooms. Can you cook? Maya asked suspiciously. Your mother taught me a few things, Karen replied. Not that I ever listened very well. While Mark worked on the roof with Jake, Karen helped the twins clean the downstairs bathroom. The atmosphere was tense at first, but gradually softened. Your hair needs conditioning, Karen told Mia, noticing her dry curls. I brought some special products. Mom used to make her own hair cream, Maya said defensively. Karen nodded. I know. She tried teaching me her recipe once, but I burned it. The whole kitchen smelled like scorched coconut for days. This made the twins giggle, and something shifted between them. By lunchtime, Karen had shown the girls how to make Sarah's favorite pasta dish, and they'd told her about the diary and their mother's letters. She never stopped loving any of us, Mia said quietly, even when you fought. Karen wiped her eyes quickly. Your mother was better at forgiveness than I ever was. That afternoon, as they all worked together clearing debris from the yard, an elderly woman approached from the neighboring property. She carried a pie dish covered in foil. Hello there. I'm Ruth Cooper. I've lived next door for 40 years. She smiled warmly. I brought apple pie to welcome you properly. Mark introduced everyone. We're fixing up the place. Sarah would be pleased, Ruth said, her eyes crinkling. She loved this old house, always had big plans for it. She handed Mark the pie. Why don't you all come over for coffee sometime? I have old photos of this property you might like to see. 2 days later, they visited Ruth's tidy cottage. Her living room walls were covered with framed photographs of the area dating back decades. She served them lemonade and showed them a photo album. This is the farmhouse in 1978 when the Anderson family owned it, Ruth explained, pointing to a faded color photo. And here it is when your mother bought it. Sarah was so proud. The children crowded around, fascinated by images of the farmhouse through the years. What's this? Jake pointed to a photo of Sarah standing in the orchard with a large piece of paper. Oh, those were her plans, Ruth said. Sarah wanted to create a community garden on the north side of the property. She thought local families should have access to fresh food, especially those who couldn't afford grocery store prices. Mom never mentioned that, Maya said, surprised. Ruth nodded. She got sick before she could start. But she was so excited about it. She had drawings of garden plots, a small farm stand by the road. She even applied for a community grant. Mark studied the photo closely. Do you know if she kept those plans somewhere? Probably in that shed of hers. Sarah never threw anything away. That evening, after Ruth's visit, Mark found Karen sitting alone on the porch swing. The twins told me about their mom's community garden idea, Karen said as he joined her. It sounds exactly like Sarah, always thinking about others. I'm going to look for her plans tomorrow, Mark replied. Maybe we could finish what she started. Karen was quiet for a moment. I've started treatment for the cancer. How's it going? Too early to tell, but I'm scared, Mark. Her voice wavered. I pushed everyone away for so long. Now I'm facing this alone. Mark surprised himself by reaching over to squeeze her hand. Not completely alone. You have family now, whether you want us or not. The next few weeks brought steady progress. The roof was fixed, stopping the leaks. The bathroom renovation was completed with new fixtures and tiles the children selected. Mark's new job with Salem Historic Restorations provided steady income and valuable connections. On weekends, all three children worked alongside Mark on house projects. Jake showed surprising skill with detail work, carefully restoring window frames and door hinges. The twins painted walls and helped arrange furniture, much of it original pieces that had belonged to their mother. Karen visited every Wednesday and Saturday. She taught the twins how to properly care for their hair, and they taught her card games Sarah had invented. Her relationship with Mark evolved from tense tolerance to cautious friendship, especially after he drove her to chemotherapy appointments when she was too weak to drive herself. One rainy Sunday, Mark and Jake explored the old shed behind the house looking for Sarah's community garden plans. Under a tarp, they found rolls of paper, detailed architectural drawings. "These are really good," Mark said, spreading them on a workbench. "Your aunt had real talent." Jake studied the drawings. "Look at how she designed the garden paths. They make a pattern from above." Mark brought the plans inside, laying them on the kitchen table for everyone to see. The drawings showed garden plots, a small pavilion, and a farm stand, all designed to complement the existing farmhouse and orchard. "Mom always said gardens should feed people's souls, not just their bodies," Maya explained, tracing the colorful designs with her finger. That night, Mark made a decision. The next morning, he called his boss at Salem Historic Restorations. "I need to talk about a different kind of project," Mark explained, "something that involves the community." By the end of April, the kitchen renovation was complete. New countertops and cabinets replaced the worn-out originals, though Mark had carefully preserved the old farmhouse sink that Sarah had loved. To celebrate, they planned a special dinner and invited Karen and Ruth. Karen brought a chocolate cake. Ruth brought more old photos. The kitchen filled with delicious smells and conversation as they shared their first meal in the fully renovated space. "This room feels like Mom again," Mia said, looking around at the warm yellow walls and polished wood floors. After dinner, as they sat in the living room with coffee and cake, Maya spoke up. "I have an idea. We should make a garden for Mom and Jake's mom too. A special place to remember them both." "A memorial garden," Karen nodded. "Sarah would love that." "Where would we put it?" Mark asked. Maya led them to the window and pointed to an overgrown corner of the property. "There. It gets morning sun but afternoon shade. Mom said that's perfect for flowers." Jake stood beside her. "My mom liked roses. Pink ones." "Sarah loved lavender and black-eyed Susans," Karen added. "I could help design it if you want. I've been taking a garden class at the community center." Mark watched them planning together, Karen sketching a layout on a napkin while the children suggested plants and features. For the first time, the farmhouse truly felt like home. Not just a building they were fixing, but a place where healing had begun for all of them. "Tomorrow we'll start clearing that space," Mark promised, feeling a sense of rightness settle over him. "We'll make it beautiful for both Sarah and Lisa." Early the next morning, Mark stood in the overgrown corner of the property, marking the area for the memorial garden with wooden stakes and string. The children joined him after breakfast, bringing shovels, rakes, and gardening gloves. "This is going to take a lot of work," Mark said, looking at the tangled weeds and small shrubs. "But we'll do it together." Then they spent the entire day clearing the space. Jake and Mark removed stubborn roots and rocks while Maya and Mia sorted through plants, saving anything that might be worth keeping. By evening, they had a blank canvas ready for Karen's design. That week established a new pattern for the family. Mornings were for school and work, afternoons for house renovations, and evenings for planning their future. Mark's job at Salem Historic Restorations introduced him to clients who appreciated his attention to detail and respect for original features. "You have a real talent for this work," his boss, Daniel Powell, told him one Friday. "The Hendersons can't stop talking about how you saved their original hardwood floors." Mark smiled, thinking about the skills he'd developed over years of necessity. "I enjoy bringing things back to life. 6 months passed quickly. The farmhouse transformation continued room by room. The memorial garden took shape under Karen's guidance, with roses for Lisa and black-eyed Susans for Sarah creating a peaceful retreat where they often gathered to talk about both women. Karen's health improved with treatment. Her visits became less about obligation and more about genuine connection. She taught Jake to make Sarah's favorite cookies and helped Mia develop her artistic talents. One October evening, Mark sat at the kitchen table surrounded by paperwork. The children were doing homework nearby when Jake looked up. "Dad, why don't you start your own business? You keep saying you could do the work better than your boss." Mark laughed. "Starting a business takes money, Jake." "We have the barn," Maya pointed out. "It's huge and empty." Mark considered this. The old barn was structurally sound but unused. With his growing network of clients and restoration skills, maybe Jake's idea wasn't so far-fetched. The next day, Mark explored the barn with new eyes. High ceilings, sturdy beams, and concrete floors made it ideal for a workshop. Light streamed through dusty windows. He could almost see it filled with workbenches, tools, and projects in progress. 2 weeks later, Mark handed in his notice at Salem Historic Restorations. Daniel wasn't surprised. "I knew we'd lose you eventually," he said, shaking Mark's hand. "You're too good to stay an employee forever. Let me know when you're set up. I have some clients I might send your way." Converting the barn into a proper workshop took another month of evenings and weekends. The whole family participated, cleaning, painting, and organizing. Mark installed proper lighting and heating. The children helped build workbenches and storage shelves. "What will you call your business?" Mia asked one evening as they painted the barn doors a deep green color. Mark paused, brush in hand. "I hadn't really thought about it." "It should have family in the name," Jake suggested. "Since we all help," Maya nodded enthusiastically. "Johnson Family Restorations." The name felt right immediately. Mark had started this journey alone, seeking financial salvation through a quick property flip. Now he was building something lasting with 3 children who had become a true family. On a cold January morning, Mark hung a wooden sign over the barn doors. Johnson Family Restorations, Historic Homes Specialists. The sign had been Jake's secret project, carefully crafted and painted in the school workshop. Their first official job came from Ruth Cooper, who needed her century-old kitchen cabinets restored. Next was the local library's antique circulation desk. Word spread quickly about Mark's skill and fair prices. By spring, Johnson Family Restorations had a waiting list of clients. Each child found their place in the family business. After school, Jake learned woodworking techniques, showing natural talent for detailed trim work. Maya handled phone calls and scheduling with surprising professionalism. Mia created drawings to help clients visualize finished projects. One Saturday morning, Mark hired his first employee, Sam Rivera, a skilled carpenter who had recently moved to Salem. "I've never seen kids so involved in a family business," Sam commented, watching the children organize tools for Monday's job. "They're the heart of it," Mark replied simply. That afternoon, while searching the attic for old door hinges, Jake discovered a dusty portfolio wedged behind a wall beam. "Dad, come look at this!" He called down the stairs. Mark climbed up to find Jake carefully opening a large folder filled with architectural drawings, not just for the community garden, but for buildings, parks, and public spaces. "These are amazing," Mark said, examining the detailed plans. "Your Aunt Sarah had serious talent." "Look at this one," Jake pointed to a design for a community center with gardens surrounding it. The date says it was for her final project at Portland Community College. That evening, Mark spread the drawings across the dining table. Sarah was studying architecture before she got sick. "These are college-level designs." "Mom always drew buildings," Maya said. "She said designing spaces was like creating little worlds for people to live in." Mia touched one drawing gently. She wanted to design parks for neighborhoods that didn't have any. Mark noticed dates on the drawings, The most recent was from just months before Sarah's death. Even during her illness, she had been creating, planning, dreaming of spaces that would bring people together. "We should finish her community garden plan," Mark said suddenly. "Not just for the memorial garden, but the whole vision she had for this property." The family gathered around Sarah's original designs. She had planned garden plots where local families could grow vegetables, a small pavilion for community gatherings, and a farm stand near the road for selling excess produce. "This is a big project," Mark cautioned, "much bigger than our memorial garden." "But we could do it," Maya insisted. "We have the space." "We know how to build things now." Jake nodded. "We could start small. Maybe just a few garden plots this year." Mark smiled at their enthusiasm. "Let's do it right. First, we need to talk to the town council about permits." The following week, Mark presented Sarah's community garden plans at the Salem Town Council meeting. He explained how his sister had envisioned a space where families could grow food together and build community connections. Johnson Family Restorations would provide the labor and materials for the structures, Mark explained. "We're asking for permission to establish this as a community resource." A council member, Elizabeth Chen, looked intrigued. "This property is zoned agricultural, so growing food isn't an issue. The farm stand might need a simple permit. Otherwise, I don't see any problems. It's a wonderful idea." With the council's approval, Mark organized a community meeting at the farmhouse. To their surprise, over 20 neighbors attended, eager to hear about the garden project. "We'll have 15 garden plots to start," Mark explained, showing Sarah's drawings. "Any local family can apply for a space. All we ask is that you share some of your harvest with those in need." An elderly man in the back raised his hand. "Are you Sarah Williams' brother?" Mark nodded. "Yes, I am." The man approached, carrying a leather folder. "I'm Professor James Wilson from Portland Community College. Sarah was my student." He opened the folder, revealing more architectural drawings. These were part of her final portfolio. She was working toward a degree before her illness progressed. Her talent was exceptional. Mark accepted the folder with shaking hands. "Thank you for keeping these." "Sarah talked about this place often," Professor Wilson continued. "She believed architecture should serve communities, not just individuals. These designs reflect that philosophy." 2 weeks later, they held a groundbreaking event for the community garden. Families from throughout Salem came with shovels, seeds, and enthusiasm. Karen brought refreshments and gardening books to share. Even Ruth Cooper joined in, despite her arthritis, offering advice about local growing conditions. From the farmhouse porch, Mark watched the scene with wonder. The children moved confidently among the volunteers, directing activities with kindness and purpose. Maya showed families the plot map she had created. Jake demonstrated how to build simple raised beds. Mia helped younger children plant seedlings. "Sarah would be proud," Karen said, joining Mark on the porch. "Of them, of you, of all this." Mark nodded. "Sometimes I wonder if she somehow knew I would find them eventually." "She never gave up hope," Karen replied, "even at the end." As the sun began to set, Mark called everyone together near the newly installed garden sign. "Williams Community Garden, growing together." He thanked the volunteers and explained the vision behind the project. "This garden represents what my sister believed, that communities thrive when people create together. Johnson Family Restorations is honored to continue her legacy." As people dispersed and the light faded, Mark noticed an unfamiliar car parked at the edge of the property. An older couple stood beside it, watching the scene. Something about the woman's profile caught his attention, the way she held her head, the gesture of tucking hair behind her ear. With a jolt, Mark realized who they were. His parents, Robert and Eleanor Johnson, who he hadn't seen or spoken to in 15 years, were standing at the edge of the property, watching their grandchildren. Mark froze in place, staring at the couple by the car. He hadn't seen his parents in 15 years, yet he recognized them instantly. His mother's hair was completely gray now, and his father looked smaller somehow, less intimidating than in Mark's memories. Karen followed his gaze. "Is everything okay?" "My parents are here," Mark said quietly. Karen's eyes widened. "The ones who—" "Yes, the ones who turned Sarah and me against each other." Mark took a deep breath. "I need to talk to them." As Mark walked across the property, his heart pounded in his chest. Robert and Eleanor Johnson watched his approach with nervous expressions. When he reached them, no one spoke for several uncomfortable seconds. "Mark," his mother finally said, her voice shaking, "you look well." "What are you doing here?" Mark asked, his tone neutral. His father cleared his throat. "We saw an article about your restoration business in the Salem newspaper. It mentioned the Williams farmhouse and community garden. We realized it must be you." "We didn't know if you'd want to see us," his mother added. "We just wanted to look." Mark crossed his arms. 15 years without a word, and now you just show up? "We deserved that," his father admitted. "We deserve your anger." "We should go," his mother said, turning toward the car. Mark surprised himself by saying, "Wait, the kids should meet you. Once." He paused. "But I want to talk to you first. Come back tomorrow morning at 10, just the three of us." They nodded, clearly relieved. As they drove away, Mark wondered if he'd made the right decision. The next morning, Mark sat across from his parents at the kitchen table. He'd sent the children to Karen's apartment for a few hours, wanting this conversation to happen privately. "Why now?" Mark asked. "After all these years?" His mother twisted her wedding ring nervously. "We tried to find Sarah first about 3 years ago. We finally realized what a terrible mistake we'd made." "Your mother got sober," his father explained. 5 years clean now. During recovery, she had to face the harm we caused. "We found Sarah," his mother continued, tears forming. "But we were too late. She was already in hospice. She forgave us, Mark, even after everything." Mark felt anger rising. "Do you know what you did to us? We lost 15 years. Sarah died thinking I abandoned her. We lied to both of you," his father admitted. "Told Sarah you wanted nothing to do with her. Told you she was stealing your inheritance. The truth was, we took that money to cover my gambling debts. We were terrible parents," his mother added, "selfish and manipulative. We don't deserve forgiveness." "Then what do you want from me?" Mark asked. His father looked him directly in the eyes. "Nothing. We want to offer you something instead, the truth and an apology. You deserve that much." Mark studied their faces, looking for signs of deception. Instead, he saw genuine remorse. "I have 3 children now," Mark said finally. "My son Jake and Sarah's twins. They're good kids. If you want to meet them, I need to know you won't hurt them like you hurt us." "We wouldn't," his mother promised. "We've changed, Mark. It took losing both our children to understand what matters." "I'm not ready to forgive you," Mark said honestly. "But I'll let you meet them. Once. Then we'll see." That afternoon, the children returned home full of questions about the mysterious visitors. Mark gathered them in the living room. "Those people you saw yesterday were my parents, your grandparents," he explained. "We haven't spoken in many years because of some bad things that happened." "Bad things like what?" Jake asked. Mark considered how to explain. "They lied to me and Aunt Sarah, made us fight with each other on purpose. I left home and lost contact with everyone." Maya frowned. "That's really mean." "Yes, it was," Mark agreed. "But they say they've changed. They'd like to meet you all, if you're willing." The children exchanged glances, silently communicating in the way they now did as siblings. "I think we should meet them," Mia said quietly. "Mom would want us to." The first meeting was awkward. Robert and Eleanor arrived with carefully chosen gifts: art supplies for Mia, a basketball for Maya, and a model car kit for Jake. The children were polite, but reserved. "You look just like your mother," Eleanor told the twins. her voice thick with emotion. "Did you know our mom well?" Maya asked. Robert nodded. "She was brilliant from the time she was little, always drawing buildings, always helping people." As the afternoon progressed, the tension slowly eased. The children asked questions about their mother as a child, and Mark observed his parents closely, ready to intervene if needed. But they seemed sincere, answering honestly even when the memories weren't flattering to themselves. Before they left, Mark set clear boundaries. "You can visit once a month for now, always when I'm home. We'll see how it goes." His parents accepted these terms without argument. "Thank you for giving us this chance," his father said. "We won't waste it." 2 days later, Mark drove Karen to her chemotherapy appointment. Her treatment was going well, but the sessions left her exhausted. They had developed a routine. Mark would drive her to the hospital, and the twins would spend the evening with her afterward, watching movies and keeping her company. "Your parents seem nice," Karen commented as they drove. "The twins talked about them all weekend." "They're on their best behavior," Mark replied. "I'm still not sure I trust them." Karen smiled weakly. "Trust takes time. Look at us. 6 months ago I was trying to take the twins away from you. Now you're driving me to cancer treatment." Mark laughed. "Life is strange." "Speaking of strange," Karen said, "my doctor says I'm responding extremely well to treatment. The tumors are shrinking." Mark smiled broadly. "Karen, that's wonderful news. Don't get too excited, I'm not out of the woods yet, but—" She took a deep breath. "For the first time since my diagnosis, I'm thinking about the future." That evening, after dropping the twins at Karen's apartment with dinner and movies, Mark and Jake continued work on the attic renovation. It was their final major project, converting the large space into a studio to showcase Sarah's architectural designs. "These skylights will bring in perfect light," Mark said, measuring the roof space. Jake handed him the pencil. "Like Mom's art studio in our old apartment." Mark paused. Jake rarely mentioned Lisa's art room. "You remember that?" Jake nodded. "She let me use her special colored pencil, said I had a good eye like her." "You do," Mark agreed. "She'd be proud of how you've helped with all these renovations." The attic transformation took 3 weeks to complete. They installed skylights, built display walls for Sarah's drawings, and created a large work table where Mia could develop her own artistic talents. The day they finished, all 3 children worked together arranging Sarah's drawings by date, creating a timeline of her creative journey. "Look at this one," Maya pointed to an early sketch. "She was only 12 when she drew this house design." "And here's one from her college days," Mia added, carefully hanging a detailed rendering of a park pavilion. Mark watched them work, marveling at how naturally they functioned as siblings now. The initial resentment and awkwardness had long since faded, replaced by genuine connection and affection. The following week brought exciting news. Salem's Historical Society contacted Mark about restoring the century-old Whitman building downtown, the most prestigious project in the city. They specifically requested Johnson family restorations, Mark told the children over dinner. "It's a 6-month project that would really establish our reputation." "That's awesome, Dad!" Jake high-fived him across the table. "Will we still have time for the community garden?" Mia asked. "Absolutely," Mark assured her. "I'll hire more help for the business." The garden is our family commitment. By early November, the farmhouse renovation was complete. Every room reflected a perfect balance of historical features and modern comfort. The community garden had produced its first harvest, with fresh vegetables donated to the local food bank each week. Karen's health continued to improve, and she became a fixture at family dinners and weekend projects. As Thanksgiving approached, Mark decided to host a proper celebration. He invited Karen, Ruth Cooper, his parents, and Professor Wilson from Portland Community College. The night before Thanksgiving, Mark found Maya and Mia sitting on the porch swing that had belonged to their mother. "Are you excited about tomorrow?" he asked, joining them. "I've never had a big Thanksgiving before," Mia replied. "Just me, Maya, Mom, and sometimes Aunt Karen." "Is it weird having Grandma and Grandpa here after they were so mean to you and Mom?" Maya asked directly. Mark considered his answer carefully. People can change, especially when they realize they've made serious mistakes. "I'm still learning to trust them, but I think your mom would want us to try." Thanksgiving Day brought clear skies and crisp autumn air, the farmhouse filled with delicious smells as everyone contributed to the meal. Karen brought sweet potato casserole. Ruth provided homemade rolls. Mark's parents arrived with pies and nervous smiles. Around the extended dining table, Mark looked at the gathered faces: his son, his nieces, his sister's friend, his elderly neighbor, his estranged parents, his sister's professor. An unlikely family, brought together through loss and healing. After dinner, Mark tapped his glass for attention. "I'd like to make an announcement. In honor of Sarah, we're establishing a scholarship at Portland Community College for architecture students who focus on community spaces. The Sarah Williams Memorial Scholarship will be funded through a portion of Johnson Family Restoration's profits each year." Professor Wilson nodded approvingly. Sarah would be honored. Her work was always about bringing people together. Later that evening, after the guests had gone and the children were in bed, Mark sat alone in the attic studio. He held one of Sarah's earliest drawings, a simple sketch of a house with a family standing outside labeled, "My Future Home," in a child's handwriting. "You did it, Sarah," he whispered. "You created this home. Not with bricks and wood, but with love that outlasted you. I just wish you were here to see it." Spring arrived exactly 1 year after Mark had first discovered the twins in the farmhouse. The property had transformed in ways he never could have imagined when he first saw the real estate listing. The once empty fields now contained neat rows of garden plots where local families tended vegetables. The barn had become a busy workshop with 3 employees. The farmhouse itself stood proud with fresh paint, repaired windows, and flowers blooming along the walkways. Mark walked through the orchard early on a Saturday morning, checking the apple trees. They were covered with pink and white blossoms that promised a heavy harvest in the fall. The morning air carried the smell of damp earth and growing things. "Dad, come see!" Jake called from the workshop. Mark found his son surrounded by wood shavings, proudly displaying an intricately carved music box. "I finished it," Jake said, carefully opening the lid. The box played a gentle melody, while a small wooden bird turned in circles. "This is beautiful craftsmanship," Mark said, examining the detailed work. "Your mother would be amazed. Do you think I could sell these at the farmer's market this summer?" Mark nodded. "I think you'll have customers lining up." Jake's asthma attacks had become rare events. The country air, reduced stress, and proper medication had worked together to improve his health. He spent hours in the workshop each week, learning from Mark and developing his own style of detailed woodcraft. Outside, the sounds of activity drew Mark to the community garden. Maya stood on a wooden crate, giving instructions to several local families who had gathered for planting day. "Remember to space your tomato plants at least 18 inches apart," she explained confidently. "And don't forget to sign up for watering duties on the schedule board." At 9 years old, Maya had become the unofficial manager of the Williams Community Garden. Her natural leadership abilities flourished as she organized planting schedules, watering rotations, and harvest distributions. "You've got quite the operation here," Mark said as families dispersed to their assigned plots. Maya grinned. "I'm teaching them Mom's companion planting method. She always said certain plants help each other grow better." Nearby, Mia sat under a tree with her sketchbook, carefully drawing the garden layout. Her artistic talents had developed rapidly over the past year. Her drawings now filled one wall of Sarah's attic studio, showing the same architectural instinct her mother had possessed. "For the Harvest Festival in October," Mia explained, showing Mark her sketch, "I'm designing how the booths should be arranged." Mark's phone rang with a call from a client. Johnson Family Restorations had grown into a respected business with more work than they could handle. They now employed 3 local craftspeople who specialized in different aspects of historic restoration. That was Mrs. Daniels, Mark told the children after ending the call. "She loves the built-in cabinets we installed last week. Is she going to refer us to her friends like she promised?" Maya asked. Mark laughed. "You're becoming quite the businesswoman." "Yes, she already recommended us to 2 neighbors." They walked together toward the small cottage at the edge of the property. The former storage building had been renovated over the winter into a cozy 1-bedroom home where Karen now lived. After completing her cancer treatment with positive results, she had surprised everyone by asking if she could remain close to the twins. "Having my own space but being near family feels right," she had explained. Karen was planting flowers around her cottage when they arrived. Her hair had grown back darker and curlier after chemotherapy, giving her a softer appearance that matched her changed personality. "Perfect timing," she called out. "I just made lemonade." They sat on Karen's small porch, drinking from frosty glasses while discussing plans for the special day. "The cherry tree will look beautiful in that spot," Karen said. "Sarah would approve." "Grandma and Grandpa said they'll arrive at noon," Jake added. Mark's parents had slowly earned limited trust over the past months. Their monthly visits had evolved from strained politeness to genuine connection, especially with the children. Robert had been sober for 7 years now, and Eleanor attended family therapy sessions with Mark twice monthly to heal their fractured relationship. "I found something in Mom's old gardening books," Mia said. "A ceremony for planting memorial trees. Can we use it today?" "That sounds perfect," Mark agreed. At noon, everyone gathered in the orchard. Ruth Cooper came with her homemade apple cake. Professor Wilson arrived with 2 students who had received the first Sarah Williams Memorial Scholarships. Mark's parents brought a hand-carved plaque for the tree. Even Sam and the other employees from the workshop joined the circle around the small cherry tree waiting to be planted. Mia stepped forward with her mother's gardening book. "This is from Mom's book. It says when we plant a memorial tree, we should share memories of the person while adding soil around the roots, so their stories become part of its growth." Mark began digging the hole, then stepped back. "Who wants to start?" "I will," Maya said, taking a handful of soil. "I remember how Mom used to dance with us in the kitchen while making pancakes on Sunday mornings." She dropped the soil into the hole. One by one, they each shared memories while adding soil around the tree's roots. "She taught me to tie my shoes using a special rhyme," Mia said. "She made the best hot chocolate with cinnamon," Karen remembered. "She could identify every bird by its song," Ruth added. When Mark's turn came, he took a deep breath. "Sarah never gave up on people, even when they gave up on themselves. She kept writing to me for years, believing we would reconnect someday." After the tree was planted, they gathered in the farmhouse living room. Mark had been working on a special project for weeks, restoring and arranging family photographs on the wall. The display included old photos of Sarah as a child, recent pictures of the children playing in the orchard, and in the center, the teenage photo of Mark and Sarah that had first revealed their connection. "It's like a family timeline," Jake observed. "That's exactly what it is," Mark agreed. "Our past, present, and future all together." Later that afternoon, a black luxury car pulled into the driveway. A well-dressed man in a suit approached Mark as he worked in the garden. "Mr. Johnson, I'm Howard Reynolds with Salem Development Corporation." The man handed Mark a business card. "Our company is interested in purchasing this property. We're prepared to make an extremely generous offer." Mark looked around at the thriving community garden, the workshop where Jake was teaching his cousins woodworking, the memorial cherry tree freshly planted in the orchard. "I appreciate your interest, Mr. Reynolds, but this property isn't for sale. Not at any price." "You haven't heard my offer yet," Reynolds persisted. "We're talking 7 figures." Mark smiled politely. "Money isn't everything, Mr. Reynolds. This place is worth much more than dollars to us." As evening approached, the visitors departed one by one. Mark found Maya and Mia sitting on their mother's porch swing, watching fireflies appear in the twilight. Today was a good day, he said, joining them. Do you think Mom knew you'd find us? Mia asked suddenly. Mark considered this question. What makes you ask that? Her letters, Maya explained. She kept writing them even when she was really sick, like she knew somehow they would reach you. And she hid all those important papers where they'd be safe until the right person found them, Mia added. Mark looked out at the farmhouse and land they had transformed together. I think Sarah was the kind of person who never lost hope. She created this place for you girls, but she also left clues and connections that would lead the right people here when the time was right. So she made sure we'd all find each other, Maya concluded with satisfaction. I believe she did, Mark agreed. After the twins went to bed, Mark sat alone at the kitchen table. He took out paper and a pen and began to write. Dear Sarah, he wrote, today marks 1 year since I found your daughters in this farmhouse. I came looking for a financial opportunity and instead found the family I never knew I needed. He continued writing, telling his sister about her daughter's achievements, Jake's growing confidence, Karen's recovery, and their parents' attempts at reconciliation. He described the community garden fulfilling her vision and the scholarship in her name. When finished, Mark folded the letter carefully. He walked to the living room and removed the loose baseboard where they had found Sarah's letters to him. He placed his letter inside the same hiding place, then replaced the board. Full circle, Sarah, he whispered. Outside, the cherry tree stood in the moonlight, its branches moving gently in the night breeze. In the orchard beyond, apple blossoms glowed silver white, promising fruit for the harvest still to come. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.